We need to talk, because what I just saw in the Senate Judiciary hearing, it's not just embarrassing. It's downright alarming. We've got men and women who are supposed to be future federal judges, folks who will sit in courtrooms across America and make decisions that could change lives, change laws, and even affect your freedoms. And yet, when Senator John Kennedy, one of the few in Washington who actually knows the Constitution and isn't afraid to ask tough questions, puts them to the test, let's just say, these answers made me cringe harder than a CNN town. Now, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, or somewhere in the middle. We should all be able to agree that if you're going to be a federal judge, you'd better know the Constitution better than a high school civics teacher. But what I heard in this clip proves we've got a serious problem. And folks, the problem isn't just ignorance. It's that these people will have the power to interpret your rights. Your rights. So grab a coffee, buckle in, because we're breaking this down.
Thank you. I want to talk about something that's happening in Texas that's now impacting your state. Republican lawmakers in Texas are trying to pass a redrawn congressional map that would help the GOP potentially flip 5 seats in the House. Democrats, though, aren't a fan of this, and Democrats in the state's House have since fled the state to avoid the quorum needed to pass the redrawn maps. So more than 50 Democratic state lawmakers then fled Texas. They're now in Chicago, in Illinois. They left the state on Sunday afternoon. So to start off the conversation, what are your thoughts on the situation that's happening in Texas and has since spilled over to Illinois?
Well, it's interesting. The word gerrymander is not a typical dinner table or breakfast over coffee discussion, but I think this week it has. And what a spotlight here on Illinois. You may or may not have seen the Illinois state-drawn map, but I'll tell you, if Governor Pritzker, who is so unpopular in this state, got off his high horse and stopped providing sanctuary to the Democrat legislators who are hiding behind his skirt, he could really do something to advance openness and transparency in Illinois by allowing what they do in Texas, and that is a bipartisan commission to draw fair maps. But I'll tell you, our maps are so gerrymandered, they're so split apart that they look like etchings of my grandchildren on scribbles on a piece of paper. And our governor campaigned to draw a fair map and to vote for a fair map. But this map we have in Illinois sends 14 of 17 congressional delegates Democrat to Washington, while 44% of our electorate voted for President Trump and 47% of our electorate voted for the Republican congressional candidate. So it's very lopsided. So I'd suggest if you really want reform, Governor Pritzker, bring it home here and tell the truth.
I want to talk about the move to Illinois because the Democrats flying to Chicago has been largely panned. Even MSNBC, former MSNBC host Chuck Todd said something to the effect of, if you want to fight gerrymandering, I'm not sure I would exactly fly to Illinois. The congressional map Illinois Democrats drew up in 2021 was slapped with a failing grade, an F, from the Princeton Gerrymandering Project. So what are your thoughts here on this fight against gerrymandering going to Illinois?
Well, let that sink in for a second. We got an F from the Princeton Gerrymandering Project. The same man who signed that map into law, Governor J.B. Pritzker, one of the worst partisan maps in the entire nation, now claims a moral high ground, a moral authority. What constitutes fairness elsewhere? Well, I'll tell you about Texas. They have, as I mentioned, a bipartisan, independent commission to draw a fair map. And it's an open process, which is why we're hearing about it. It's why that word gerrymander is now something that's being talked about, on the street, and we see it on the news. But I must say that the way that the news is skewed is really, really hypocritical. The truth is that the people, the electorate, those who vote in Illinois aren't given a fair shake. And we are not a blue state, as blue as it would portend, but because of the crazy districts we've got here. We have a lopsided supermajority Democrat in Springfield, which has brought the state to its knees. And we have a Democrat governor who's using this electorate, the fine men and women and taxpayers, families of Illinois, to begin his bid for president in 2028. And that's all he's doing here. He's basically using and abusing us. And that's why people are leaving our state in droves. But the solution is a Republican solution. The one big, beautiful bill that was just passed is for working men and women. And that bill, which was not supported by one Democrat legislator here in Illinois, not one, nor either of our two senators, stopped the biggest tax hike in American history.
Senator Kennedy starts with what should be the basics, the warrant requirement. Judge Dudick stumbles through an explanation, eventually admitting that yes, you generally need a warrant to search or arrest someone, with a few exceptions. So far, so good. But then Kennedy throws a curveball. What if Florida decided they weren't going to recognize any exceptions? Dudick first tries to hide behind the Supremacy Clause, basically saying, no, you can't do that, before Kennedy forces him to admit that yes, states can expand your rights under their own constitutions. This is day one constitutional law. Folks. Next up, Kennedy moves to adequate and independent state grounds, another basic principle. And once again, the judge dances around before being corrected. Then Judge Pratt takes the hot seat. Kennedy asks if a state can discriminate between groups. Pratt says yes in some cases, like setting a driving age, which is true, but stumbles when Kennedy pushes on when they can't. It's like pulling teeth to get a straight constitutional answer. And then, the real jaw-dropper, Kennedy asks about the Privileges and Immunities Clause. Pratt confuses it with the Privileges or Immunities Clause, gets the amendment wrong, and then flat-out admits it's never come up in his career. So he doesn't know. Think about that. A man who's been a judge for nearly a decade can't answer a simple constitutional question. Folks, if you don't know the Privileges and Immunities Clause is in Article 4, what business do you have interpreting federal law? But wait, it gets worse. Kennedy asks about the Privileges or Immunities Clause from the Reconstruction Amendments. Pratt guesses the 13th or 14th, but he's still unsure. Imagine if a soldier didn't know the basic commands of his own unit. That's the level we're talking about here. And then, Judge Arda steps up, or tries to. Kennedy asks about Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, something federal judges will deal with constantly. Ardo fumbles, rambles about equal treatment and the Commerce Clause, and completely misses the fact that Title V specifically prohibits discrimination by race, color, or national origin when entities receive federal funding. Kennedy has to flat-out correct him like a teacher with a student who didn't do the reading. Folks, this is terrifying. These are people who want lifetime appointments, but can't even get the basics right.
Just think of that for a second. And those solutions are what we in the Illinois Republican Party are bringing to every home we can. And I expect that we're going to build this Republican revolution here in Illinois, this Republican renaissance, by electing a Republican governor and Republican congressional reps in spite of our horrible maps, because it's time for Illinois to get with the rest of the nation and allow this great golden age of America to be felt here as well.
I want to talk about those numbers, the Republican numbers in Illinois, just again, because as you said, 3 of the 17 congressional seats are Republican, yet around 46% of the voters in Illinois voted Republican. So, I mean, that math isn't mathing, just like in Texas. That math isn't mathing either when it comes to the numbers of the new congressional maps there. Governor Pritzker said this, that redrawing his state's congressional map is on the table in response to what the Texas Democrats are fleeing Texas from. I'm curious, have you talked to either these Texas Democrats that are in Illinois or Governor Pritzker at all since Sunday, since they came to your state?
I haven't talked to them directly, but I have listened to their responses and their cries foul. You may or may not know, but Illinois probably is ground zero for election uh, engineering, let's say it that way, not only through our gerrymandered maps, but in that irregularity that occurs over the 40-day election cycle. And what we Republicans are doing, what we're focusing on, is taking those dead voters off of our voter rolls. We shouldn't have people over 300 years old voting. And that's what we have in Illinois. And that's largely due to laziness by some of the clerks who just don't do their homework and remove those names from the ballot, and they shouldn't be allowed to vote. So the Illinois Republican Party is pledged to election integrity, making sure that every cheat is not counted, to cleaning up the voter rolls, and also to put eyes on every ballot. And that's why, in part, Republicans came out in droves in 2024. We brought President Trump's numbers from a 17-point deficit, which was the case in 2016 and 2020, down to single digits. Illinois voters contributed to the popular landslide for Donald J. Trump. And we in Illinois are reaping the benefits of that great national leadership. And I think people are waking up to this. That is, it does matter. Every vote matters. And the more people that we speak to and reach and get them registered, they, by a resounding number, are coming on to the Republican Party. We've got so many Democrats who are now, I call them red pill Democrats, who just, have smelled the sweet success that we see in this presidency. And what do the Democrat leaders do, like Pritzker and the ilk? The Democrat legislators from Texas, they're just, they're demagoguing, and they are just flat out lying. They're hypocrites. And instead of legislating and doing what the fine voters of Texas asked them to do and representing them, they come cowering to Illinois and hiding behind Governor Pritzker's skirt. Oh, seriously. This is just childish. And the truth be told, there's an open process in Texas. And let the process that was voted on by the Texas legislature win the day. And that is an independent, bipartisan electoral commission that is examining the fairness of the map, and in an open process, voting to make those districts fair and balanced. And I would like to see that happen here in Illinois. So go at it, Governor Pritzker. If you're really a man of your word, do what they're doing in Texas. Give us an open, transparent process like they have there, not a partisan process with every Republican voice shut out. And if anyone wants to just look at that map of Illinois, it does look like scribbles that my grandchildren would make on a piece of paper. But why is it like that? It's to send the greatest number of Democrats to Washington. And the Democrats have deserved this state and its voters by failing to get on board the one big beautiful bill. Not one of them voted for it. And this is hurting Illinois businesses and Illinois families and Illinois taxpayers. So I'm going to continue to go throughout our 102 counties and bang the drum and speak to people about what really matters. Put more money in their pocket. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. This Republican Party is the party of the working men and women and the families. And I believe this Republican Party, led by this president, will save not only Illinois, but usher in the golden.
My fellow Americans, this is exactly why we have to pay attention to who gets nominated to the federal bench. These are not small mistakes. These are fundamental constitutional principles that every first-year law student should know. And yet here we are with potential federal judges who couldn't pass a basic civics quiz. We are a nation built on the rule of law, a constitution that limits government power and protects the individual. But if the people in charge of interpreting that law don't know it, they can't protect it. And if they can't protect it, they can't protect you. So next time you hear about a judicial confirmation hearing, don't just shrug it off. Watch it, listen, ask questions. Because the Constitution is only as strong as the people who defend it. And as this hearing showed, not everyone in line for the job is ready to do that. This is why we fight for judicial nominees who respect the law, understand the law, and will uphold the law. Not twist it, not fumble through it, but stand by it like a true patriot. Stay informed, stay vocal, and as always, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.